Is it smart for the Cowboys to pass on signing Cam Newton?
Oh, yeah, I think it's very smart for them to pass on signing Cam Newton. Number one, if you sign him before the season starts, you're going to have to, guarantee his full salary. So I don't think there's many teams that are going to look at him seriously before week one passes. So that would be the number one thing. Number two, to me, Cam Newton is one of the most exceptional athletes I've ever watched play. I think he's a very average quarterback. Now, all of a sudden, with all the injuries that have stacked up on Cam Newton, going all the way back to the shoulder that started bothering him in 2017, he had surgery after the 2018 season on that shoulder. I just think he's become very average I've always thought he was average from an accuracy standpoint, but now you take away that element of his game, that running element of his game, that threat element of his game because of all the injuries. And I just think when it comes to layered from the pocket throws, Cam has been a very average quarterback over the course of his career. And you take away the big time playmaking element. I just don't think he has the stuff that teams are really looking for.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. In terms of the Cowboys passing on Cam Newton, I think it was a smart move ultimately. I'm sure internally they went through the process and kicked the tires and made sure that Cam Newton was mentally available for them. And I'm sure through the conversation with Cam Newton and his representation, they wanted to know, was he available mentally to be a backup, I'm sure. And also the vaccination question that is looming for every single player as well. With all of that as evidence, I'm sure that they finally came to a decision and they went with Will Grier. I get all that. But Cam, horrible timing for Cam Newton to get released in the final cuts and get cut because of a rookie. This is a horrible situation you find yourself in. Like my dad used to always say, like he had to go to school, go uphill both ways. Cam's career right now is trying to now go uphill both ways. Let's talk about it because there's a present tense of Cam Newton and there's a past tense of Cam Newton that doesn't afford him any respect as well. The present tense of Cam Newton is the bad film we saw last year. Remember, he had 4 games last season where he threw for fewer than 100 yards. Running backs are going out there trying to get 100 yards a game, not quarterbacks. And Cam Newton threw for fewer than 100 yards 4 different times. We also saw that Cam Newton was struggling in terms of just picking up the system on the fly. Think about it. You want to bring Cam Newton in as a backup, you want him to be able to pick up a system on the fly. Doesn't seem like just of last year that he was able to do that. But here's where the past comes back to haunt Cam Newton as well. Because I caught you, Mark. You said, well, I thought Cam was average. Well, actually, I've always thought Cam was average in terms of his entire career. You're right. Look at this in terms of quarterback rankings this century. Cam Newton this century at the quarterback position ranks 3rd worst in completion percentage at 60.1. In passing yards per game, quarterbacks this century, 6th worst. In passer rating, 8th worst. So when you talk about the former MVP in Cam Newton, you start thinking of the highlights and you think about the power running game that he was a part of and the big arm talent and all those great moments. But there are some numbers that don't support Cam Newton of the past. And if we saw the film from last year, there's a lot of evidence that doesn't support him in the present.
Okay, so now the question is, were the Cowboys smart to pass on signing Cam Newton? I would say it's not a smart move because Dak Prescott is coming off an injury, and the 2 guys playing behind him, Cooper Rush and Will Grier, they can't play. And so last year the Cowboys got a taste of life without Dak Prescott, and it didn't taste really nice. It didn't taste good. And so we can talk about Cam Newton and whether he's a high-level starter and those things, but let's think about Andy Dalton last year for this Cowboys offense. Andy Dalton only averaged 197.3 passing yards per game. His passer rating was at 87.3. As bad as you talk about Cam Newton's film, Cam Newton averaged 177.1 pass yards per game. His passer rating was right around 83, but he added 12 touchdowns on the ground. So if we're talking about a backup quarterback position, which Andy Dalton occupied last year, we could say that Cam Newton is at least in the same conversation of what they had last year. So to me, they downgraded him in the backup position by bypassing on Cam Newton.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that aspect of it, Bucky, and I'm not going to argue that aspect of it. But I think Marcellus brought up a great point. Where are you, Cam Newton? Because I think ultimately Cam Newton is looking back and going, okay, wait, I'm going to wait till a quarterback gets injured and see where I fit, see if I can still be a starter in this league, because that's exactly what he feels. Look at his Instagram page. He said, you think there's 32 better than me right now? And so he certainly feels like I can still be a starter in this league. I can be a productive starter in this league, and I can be a star talent. Until you're willing to come to grips with where you are in your career, I think we all like to think of ourselves as still being able to play or still being great even when we lose a step. And so if he is not ready in his mind to accept a backup role, well then, frankly, to me, it would be foolish for any team to sign a guy that's not willing to do that doesn't want to be in that role, because that role requires you to be submissive, if you will, and to help the starting quarterback with whatever the starting quarterback needs. And, by the way, to run the scout team. I don't think Cam Newton's in a place right now where mentally he's ready to say, yeah, I'll run the scout team. I mean, he's not Brian Hoyer, for crying out loud. I don't think he's ready to do that.
I'm with you, Stink. It is a little wait-and-see game for Cam Newton. If I were in his position, I would wait for a starting opportunity. You never know what's going to happen out there where you are, Stink, in Denver. You never know how that situation is going to play out. Obviously, they have two guys, but they're not in love with either guy, but they're going to let them jockey for that opportunity. So if I'm Cam Newton, I am playing a little wait-and-see. But I'm also playing a game of self-awareness. And you said it. When you lose a step, it's so funny that you're the last one to really acknowledge that you lost that same step. I remember when I was in Dallas and I was coming down the hill pretty fast with no brakes. And it took Bill Parcells to finally pull me to the side going against Flozell Adams in a one-on-one pass rush drill in front of the entire camp, that he said, hey, Wiley, is that all you got? And I gave him the honest answer, as I always do. Yeah, that's all I got, Coach. He said, That was thunder in my head of like, dog, you ain't the same dude. I don't know where Cam Newton is yet. I don't know what's going on in his head, but there's about to be some thunder rolling in his head if he doesn't see an opportunity fast. We all got to remember, especially as athletes with our egos, that we're always the star of that movie that's playing in our head. We're always the one that saves the day. But in reality, there's some younger guys out there. He just found out the hard way, a rookie that could come and save the day as well. So I look at Cam Newton really falling victim almost to the perception that he can't suppress that ego of being a former MVP, a former number one pick. The reality is we don't know yet because Cam has not found himself in that despair just yet. But as this season continues and Cam Newton starts to realize that, hey, maybe nobody's going to buy my script. Nobody's going to put me in their movie. You might have to change that part that you're playing in your head because the reality is going to say something different.
Yeah, look, I think this is a complex situation for both parties. I think for the Dallas Cowboys, like most teams, here's what you're thinking you're getting when you bring Cam Newton into the locker room. One, he's an alpha male presence. Yeah. And if you have a quarterback who has any insecurity, that could mess up the chemistry in the locker room, because when Cam walks in there, naturally some guys are going to gravitate towards him. Secondly, he has a unique game that may require the coach to do some extra work to kind of build a system around him. Normally, for your backup quarterback, you're not extending a lot of reps to them, so that makes it complex. To me, even though I say this is not a smart deal, to me, it reminds me a lot of Carmelo Anthony in the NBA. Carmelo Anthony was a talent, was still worthy of being able to get 20 points a game, but everyone in the league paused because they didn't know where his head was at. And it took him a year away from the game to kind of find his way back into the game, where someone gave him an opportunity after being let go with Houston. For Cam, he may be looking at a similar situation where it is QB1 or nothing, because people don't view him as a guy that can handle the QB2 responsibility until he shows people and tells people he's willing to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. We all know that the backup duties are a little bit more than listed. I think most people out there who haven't been involved with the game as intimately as us think that it's about just holding the clipboard and yes, sir, no, sir, to the coach. Oh, the subordination doesn't stop with the coach. It's with the players. Like when you are a backup, you got to say, okay to Dak, no matter what Dak talk about. You can't push back on Dak, because if Dak don't like how you getting down, Dak going to look at you a little sideways, because in a weird way, Dak is actually your boss. Like, you got to get Dak right. Not only do you have to get yourself right, which is be real as a backup, you always wish the best for the team, and you wish a little bit of hell to that guy who's starting in front of you because you want your shine. You want your opportunity. So Cam is going to find himself in a crazy place. I just know from being a backup, like, Cam ain't getting the donuts and the chicken, dog. Like, Cam is not going to do the run for the team like the backups have to do. I just can't see it. So he finds himself in the worst position right here. A fringe starter. We've seen it over time where all of a sudden you look at a fringe starter and say, I don't know about that guy, especially when he's a superstar, whether it's Colin Kaepernick, Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow, etc. So I'm going to come to you, Stink, with this since you're out there in Denver. We're talking about a Drew Lock and a Teddy Bridgewater who's going to start for that team. Would Cam be a good fit in Denver? They've been seeking a quarterback for a long time.
I don't think he's a good fit because I think the way they're trying to win in Denver, Colorado right now is they are trying to run the football. They are trying to play great defense. On paper, they've got probably the best secondary in all of football. So to me, it's about possessing the ball, converting on third downs, being judicious with the football and the way you throw it. Those are the things that they're talking about here in Denver, and that just does not seem to fit his game right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. What's going to fit his game is the conversation. But right now, I think he's like, look, one size fits all. I could fit anywhere. Just give me that chance. Give me that opportunity. We'll see.